right, good morning, everybody. We will get started shortly. We want to give enough time for people to log in, so we'll just start in less than 60 seconds. All right, let's get started. Good morning, everyone. Thank you all so much for joining us today. Realize Monday's a busy day for everybody, but we appreciate your time and your attention to this extremely important topic. So today we are going to be discussing our safe and sound tips, tools, and trend, how to prevent your business from fraud prevention. My name is Leanne Wang, and I am the regional executive at John Marshall Bank. We are very thrilled to have such a strong turnout for this very important topic. As you all know, fraud is everywhere. It's affecting businesses, personal, people of all sizes, and businesses of all sizes. And it stems from email scams to wire fraud to identity theft, data breaches, you name it, people will come up with it. In 2024 alone, our businesses experienced a huge increase in reported fraud losses. The Federal Trade Commission's saying that we reported over $12.5 billion just in business fraud alone. So today's session is going to help equip you with the knowledge and tools to help protect your organizations, your employees, and your clients. We are very fortunate to be joined by three outstanding experts in the field. We have Sheldon Turner, Vice President and Security Officer at John Marshall Bank, who brings deep insight into operational and security and fraud protection. We have Shalini Kapoor, Senior Vice President and Director of Treasury and Digital Services. She will share some practical strategies for safeguarding financial operations. And last but not least, Michael Drobnis, CEO of OptfinITy, cybersecurity leader with extensive experience helping businesses navigate the digital threat landscape. Over the next hour, we'll explore some real-world fraud case studies. We'll look at some current trends and walk through some actionable, preventable strategies that you can use to protect your business. We'll wrap up with a question and answer section. So as you're going through this presentation, please jot down any questions or notes that you may have. This is a great opportunity to learn from our experts from the panel today. So with that said, I will turn it over to Sheldon Turner to get us started. Sheldon?
Thank you so much, Leanne, and good morning, everyone. Thanks for taking some time from your busy mornings to visit with us and to listen to what we're talking about around bank fraud. As the security officer for John Marshall Bank, my team and I focus mainly on recovering fraud losses for our customers. And I got to tell you, it's a difficult challenge these days with the sophistication of the bad actors that we're seeing out there who are turning it up a notch or two in the way that they are able to defraud our customers from their finances. So let's take a quick look at what we are seeing, and the trends do not look good, as you can see. We're talking about $125 billion lost in bank fraud in 2023, and I can guarantee you that in 2025 that number is much higher. When you look at this, check fraud is up 110% in the past 4 years, and it's mostly organized crime rings and scams that are really tough for our customers to decipher without the tools and solutions that we offer here at John Marshall Bank. And OptfinITy also offers many solutions for our customers as well. But the challenge is great, and this kind of indicates that, as you can see, our biggest concern is mail fraud. Mail fraud is probably 80% of our fraud cases here at John Marshall Bank. And that is not only here at John Marshall Bank, it is across the nation. As you can see, the complaints are up 300% since 2018. Think about that. That is a huge number. And a lot of the bad actors are using pretty archaic ways of accessing uh, your funds, and so it's very difficult to overcome that. When you look at, they're stealing keys from postal workers, stealing checks from the U.S. Postal Service, and they're stealing from the mailboxes themselves. So think about if you are using check payments to pay your bills, and you're putting it in the U.S. mailbox, there is a great chance that uh, you're going to end up being the victim of fraud. And so, again, as I mentioned earlier, um, Shalini's going to talk to you about some of the solutions that we have at John Marshall Bank to mitigate fraud losses like that. But the one thing that I will tell you right now, and if you hear nothing else I say to you, put some type of verification process in place for your business. And what I mean by that is have yourself or have someone who is working with payments to verify any payment that is requested by email, that is, whether it's an ACH, whether it's a check, whether it is a wire transfer. It is extremely important that you are verifying this information before you actually send those funds out. Um, as you can see at the bottom here, check washing is a huge issue in the banking industry right now. And as you can see, bank losses add up to more than $800 million annually just from check washing schemes. These schemes are sophisticated at times and they're very difficult to detect. So it's very important that you have a verification process in place. If you mail out a check, be sure to verify that that check has gone to the proper person or company that it was meant to go to. I have the very good fortune of working with several security associations around financial losses for bank customers. And the one that I'm very fond of is the Security Association for Financial Institutions. And I'm so fond of it because we get to work with not only security types from our local area, but I also get to work with the FBI, the Postmaster General's office, and the Secret Service in not only reviewing our cases locally, but kind of having an understanding of what's happening nationally around bank fraud. And it is pretty definitely uh, tough to kind of hear some of the cases that are involved when we talk about millions of dollars being lost by many of our local customers as well as bank customers nationally. So what we talk about, generally speaking, in our meetings are mail theft, check fraud, identity theft, email hack, vendor fraud, and wire transfer fraud. And so I'm going to go over just a few of the cases that are legitimate cases, and we've seen these cases happen many times, not only locally, but nationally as well. And I think some of them, if you look at the dollar number, they're not huge dollars, but if you think about a small business losing, an example of this case, losing $54,000, that can be significant and devastating to their bottom line. So this happened to be a construction company business. They received a wire transfer request from a contract vendor in the amount of $54,300. So unfortunately, in this case, the fraudsters had hacked the vendor's email and converted the email wire transfer request to a fraudulent account number. So here you go. You've got a case where a request was made by a known vendor. And so the easy thing to do, and what we often do is human nature, we go ahead and we do the transaction without verifying the information. So a simple process of verifying the email would have prevented the loss of $54,000 to this business. The next case, it was a government contractor. The client, whose account manager, received an email from what they thought was the CEO of the business. The CEO was asking for W-2 copies of all employees of the business. When you think about that, if you receive an email from your CEO, again, as I said, it's human nature to go ahead and process that transaction because you believe that you're getting that email from your boss. But again, with the sophistication of the fraudsters today, it is extremely, extremely important that you are verifying any information, and it doesn't matter who it's coming from. You have to verify that information, especially if it involves confidential information, if it involves sending out a payment of any kind, you have to verify that information. So in this case, obviously, the CEO's email had been hacked. And I got to tell you, in the cases that we're seeing, that is becoming more and more of a common practice among the bad actors because it's an easy target. And I've seen examples of emails that have been changed, and it looks very, very real. So in this case, the government contractor had to pay for credit monitoring for all the employees, which added up to several $1,000s. The CFO of the business was faced with disciplinary action, and unfortunately, the accounting manager was dismissed. And all of this could have been prevented with some kind of verification process in place. This last one that I will talk about a little bit is a very, very good story, I believe. It involved a John Marshall Bank customer who had mailed a large check for $71,000 out for payment. And unfortunately, that check was intercepted by bad actors, and the name was altered, but everything else looked correct on the check. The check number, the dollar amount, the signature were all correct. And so we have a process in place here at John Marshall Bank where we have a process where we do make calls to any check that looks a little bit strange to us. So we will call the customer. In this case, we did call the customer, but the customer only looked at the information in terms of the dollar amount, the signature, and the check number. Didn't actually look at the payee. So we were not convinced that it wasn't a fraudulent item. And so we called the customer back and asked them to really take a really good look at the check. And that's when they discovered that the check name had been altered. And so obviously our customer was extremely grateful for that save, but it doesn't happen all the time. So that's why it's so important that you have a verification process in place, and that you utilize some of the tools and solutions that our treasury management team has to offer here at John Marshall Bank. So with that, we'll turn this over to Charlene to talk to you a little bit about what some of those solutions are.
Thank you, Sheldon. Again, it's not all doom and gloom. We kind of give you these case scenarios to tell you this is out there in the market right now. And as a bank, it is our responsibility to make our clients aware about what is going out in the market out there, how the businesses can be cautious in different ways in which these bad actors are trying to get your information. And in a lot of ways, how to prevent fraud from happening onto your bank accounts. So a few fraud prevention tips and tools that you have at your disposal. Again, check fraud is a huge channel for getting account business account information in order to withdraw funds, right? So minimize check writing. How could you do that? You have electronic means in terms of ACH that is very secure. It gives you it electronically transmits, so you don't have that mail payment channel available, and that helps prevent fraud. If you are writing payroll checks, talk to your payroll company and see, one, if they can do these payments electronically via direct deposit, or if you do have to write checks for your employees, the payroll company can take that liability and write checks off of their account. So it's called like a shell account. So it'll have your company name, but that account information at the bottom is not your bank account information. They pass through that account information. So have that conversation with your payroll company if you're writing checks, if you can route the checks through your payroll company. Another way is to help your check being intercepted by bad actors. So if there is a way for you to hand deliver the checks, that is an ideal scenario in where you have to write checks on the account. The last bullet point under minimizing check writing, I would like to stress on the difference between a debit card versus a credit card. A lot of businesses have debit cards on the account because it comes with, and then you use it for your transactions. Well, on a business account, the regulations protecting a business are very different and actually slack as compared to a consumer account and the protections around consumer accounts. So on a business debit card, you do not have the same ways to get your money back had it been on a consumer account. That is the reason why only have a debit card in case you need cash access to your business. For all other purposes, if you're using it for purchases, a credit card is a better option. A credit card is backed by Visa zero liability policy. So if you're disputing the transaction or there has been unauthorized debits on your account, the credit card offers you that 60 days of, hey, you can dispute and get your money back, as opposed to a debit card for a business account where your window is just 24 hours. So please be mindful about that. Purchases need to be on a credit card, especially airline tickets and stuff like that. Put it on a credit card versus a debit card. Moving on to protecting your confidential information. We sometimes get the feedback that, oh, why do I need to change your password? And why do you have to make it so difficult? It is for your protection. Make sure you have multi-factor authentication set up on your bank accounts so that not one person does not have just all your information available to log in and have access to all the money in your account. For our John Marshall Bank, we have a unique 7-digit company ID that is generated. And anytime you log in, you have, besides your username and password, you have to put in that unique company ID. Similarly, if the computer is not recognizing where you're signing in for, we have multi-factor authentication and will send a code to the cell phone we have on file in order to authenticate you. Or if you're sending a wire on an ACH, again, once you're ready to transmit, you'll have multi-factor authentication, or some banks offer token system in order to authenticate that transaction before it is remitted. So while it might seem a lot of work, these security measures are in place to protect your account. Dual control is extremely important. Not just one person sends out the transaction. As Sheldon mentioned, it is very important to verify that email that came through where the vendor said that they have changed their bank account information. Dual control kind of acts like that speed bump that can help you, where your accounts payable got that email saying, hey, we changed our bank account information. This is a new bank account. Send the money here. If that accounts payable representative or employee did not follow the process of actually calling that vendor on that number that you have on file to verify if this was an authentic request or not, now, if you had dual control, and supposing it's the CFO or the accounts payable manager, they can ask the accounts payable employee, hey, did you call to verify before I'm approving this transaction? So that speed bump kind of helps you mitigate losses, especially in case of vendor fraud that we are seeing. And that kind of covers that email due diligence too. Please have set the process in place internally that if you get any request to change your bank account information, you are actually calling the number that you have on file for your vendor or whoever that is that you're making the payment to in order to authenticate that request. Again, on the banking side, what we help you do in order to be on top of your accounts is monitor your accounts, set up alerts. You can get text alerts, you can get email alerts, you can customize based on withdrawals happening on your account. So please get into the habit of either pulling your daily account balances and statement of last 10 transactions. Just at a glance, you've seen it, and now you know there have been no unauthorized debits. As I mentioned, the laws and regulations protecting a bank account are very restricted. For the most part, you just have 24 hours to dispute it. So if you're top of maintaining your account balances, to reviewing your debits out of the account, it kind of makes it easier for you as well as the bank in case there is a fraudulent debit coming out of your account to help you get that money back quickly. The one resource that the regulation requires all banks to have is a security resource. So please utilize that. These bad actors are sophisticated. We're getting into the age of AI. So the banks, almost all banks, we are required to have a security page so that it's not just this presentation, but now you know what all is out there. What are some of the scams that are prevalent in the market right now? What are certain steps you can take in order to protect your account? So be in the habit of, just as a casual read, once you're accessing your account and you're going under your online banking, to kind of view the security features, the security resource page on your bank account to get that information. Before I go into positive pay, I would like to talk to you about emails. Be very, very cognizant, especially when you get a vendor email, on checking for the authenticity of that email. This is a great snapshot. Again, if it feels wrong, it probably is wrong. And the best way for you to do it is call the number that you have on file. But a few red flags here is, again, is the email corresponding to who you're expecting that email from? Are there any irregularities in that email, the from email that is coming from? Like in this case, it's a suspicious domain name that is on the email. Do you recognize, again, that is important to know. If you are marked in copy, does it make sense for you to be on that email that it is being sent to? Or is it a random group of people that it is getting sent to? Links are very, very, what's the word I'm looking for? The links is what you need to be extremely careful about when you are getting an email, because that's how they'll install malware on your computer. So again, does the link make sense in terms of the content of the email that is being sent and who is sending it to you? The other thing is date. This one's sent at 2:45 in the morning. Does it make sense for you to get an email that early? So it is very important for you to pause before you click on that email, and especially before you click on any attachments in that email, for it to make sense that this is a legitimate email versus a fraudulent one. I will now move on to positive pay. Positive pay, I like to call it, is an insurance on your bank account. What that does is it kind of helps the bank know what kind of activity withdrawal activity to expect from your account. So we have two kinds of positive pay. We have check positive pay and ACH positive pay. What happens with check positive pay is you write the checks in your accounting software, and almost all accounting softwares give you the ability to generate a report. What you tell the bank then is the date of the check, the check number, the payee, the amount, and the date of the check. Those are my 4 parameters. These are the checks that I have written out of my bank account. And you upload that report into online banking so that now I know what checks are out there floating for you. If a check is altered, which happens most of the time, then that check triggers an exception. So you wrote a check for $100 to John Doe and the check number was 101. That check comes through, all those 4 parameters pass, the check will be paid and you're golden. If that check instead of $100 was made out to $1,000 to John Doe, now one of my parameters does not match. What will happen is when that check is presented the next day, because it takes overnight to process, you can set up either email alerts or text alerts saying, hey, there's an exception for you to review. And now you can either log into online banking or pull it up on your mobile app and you can view the check. And you can view that instead of $100, that check was made out to $1,000. And that is wrong. All you need to do is reject that transaction, reject that check, and that check will be returned. If you did not have check positive pay and that check cleared for $1,000, now what the process is, 1, your account information is compromised. You will need to open a new account for sure. You will need to now change all the direct deposits and direct debits out of your account to the new account. In cases where the amount is large, or just for your benefit, now you have to file an FIR or a police report for it. So you can avoid all those headaches by having check positive pay, so that even if the check is fraudulent, all you're doing is rejecting that transaction and business goes on as usual. So check positive pay is a great peace of mind, and that's where like that insurance component comes in on your checking account. ACH positive pay works a little differently. Any electronic debit coming out of your account will first hit as an exception. So you have your Verizon payment for $100. The first time it tries to pull through your account, it'll hit as an exception, and then you can set up the rules around it. So similar to check positive pay, you'll get the email or a text alert first thing in the morning. And then you log in and you will tell me, it's like, yes, Verizon is a valid vendor. Go ahead and pay this item. Or you can tell me Verizon can debit my account only up to $2,500. So that if for any reason that debit is over $2,500, it'll trigger another exception to come through. So those are some great tools between check positive pay and ACH positive pay that help you get the peace of mind to monitor all debits coming out of your account. The last slide I have for you is just certain resources we have under our security page to kind of go more in depth with the importance of setting up dual control, password requirements for online banking and authentication, just different between multi-factor authentication, out-of-band authentication, some tools available for you to protect online access for your business account. And with that, I will pass the mic over to Mike.
All right. Well, thank you, Shalini, and good morning, everyone. It's interesting listening to Shalini and Sheldon speak. It really makes me think about dealing with my kids. I have kids that are members of Gen Z and Gen Alpha, and the biggest issue I have with them, whenever I say to them, they say, "Hey, Dad, I want to make plans. I want to do this." I say, "Great, call your friends and this and that." Well, I texted them. Well, that's great. Just pick up the phone and call them. Then I'll wait for them to text back. When it comes down to it, and we talk about cybersecurity, and we talk about a variety of the things that are going on, a lot of it comes down to what they were talking about, which is verification. They both mentioned verification. They both mentioned multi-factor authentication. And in reality, that is really what cybersecurity is all about. It's about verifying the truth before making or taking action. Now, to get started, I'm going to just talk about some basic cyber to understand what we're going to talk about today and how that ties in with both bank fraud and, more importantly, how you can protect yourself both as an individual and as an organization. When it comes to cybersecurity, the practice of protecting systems, networks, programs, but systems in general is what is cybersecurity. How do we defend against it? How do we prevent it? How do we detect it? One of the biggest things you want to do is you want to have this concept in your mind of zero trust. What that means is that nobody has access to things they don't need access to. It's that simple. If you do not need access to the HR files, you don't have access to the HR files. Even if you just need one little thing, find another way to get it. It's literally giving people the least amount of resources to cause damage to themselves or the organization. CMMC, it is a maturity model, and the reason I bring it up, it's basically the Department of Defense said, this is the model we want to follow to be secure. Now, right now it's a DoD. I expect within a couple of years, majority of the government's going to require that, and it's going to become the standard that all organizations are going to do. The problem we have, and the problem you hear about, as they were talking about earlier, is that small businesses, and almost half of them still do not spend any money to protect their organization. It's the concept of, oh, they're going after the big companies, they're going after this. That's not the case, as we'll get through it. Data compliance, those are where you're required to do things, and then a breach, of course, is what happens afterwards. So what is a breach and how do they occur? As you can see from the picture in front of you, there are different types of breaching. Most people think of hackers, they think of some kid, some guy, some girl wearing a hoodie in a dark room, typing away, trying to get stuff. That is not how most of it occurs. Some of it still occurs that way, but most of it occurs, and it starts with, as Shalini discussed, an email, otherwise known as phishing. What that is an email that looks real, but isn't. Now, we talk about what can you do to protect yourself, and a lot of this is common sense. About 6-7 years ago, we had an organization who called us up because all they had was Microsoft email, but they were irate. The reason they were irate is they were a 5-person organization here in Alexandria. 4 people that worked in the office, 1 person worked somewhere in the Midwest, and that person was the CFO. The CFO received an email from the CEO saying, hey, set up this new vendor, we got to wire them money, please wire the initial payment of $45,000. The problem was that that was a fake email. Now, this is years ago, before it even became commonplace. Now, what could they have done? 5-person organization. 1, they could have not been like my kids, and they could have picked up the phone and said, hey, is this real? Do you really want me to set this up? Didn't do that. 2, they could have looked at the email and realized it actually came from a fake Gmail address, and they just used that person's name of the CEO to send out that email. Didn't look at that. Just processed it and sent it. Well, let's fast forward 5 months ago. A client of ours someone gave access to their email. We're not really positive how, whether it was credentials stolen, whether it was session hijacking, but they got access. They kept quiet for a while. Then they sent out emails to an organization saying, hey, we've changed our ACH. And then this client sent about $100,000 to the fake email address, a fake ACH. Again, how could you have verified that? Easily pick up the phone, big payment, we're going to send this. But more importantly is, who is responsible? The person who sent the money, the person who sent the fake email. All of these things are things that could have been prevented. In that particular case, it was the person who sent the email who took responsibility and the cyber insurance company who paid it out. But we can get into cyber insurance in a little bit. So what are some of these things you got to worry about? Well, one is the email phishing. 2, compromised or stolen credentials. If you're utilizing the same password for every single account, that's a problem. You want to have unique passwords. Could be vulnerabilities. If you watch the news over the weekend, just yesterday, Microsoft came out and said their SharePoint product has a 0-day exploit. What does that mean? Meant that the product has a hack. They found it. They're able to access it. The good news is it's not happening to SharePoint 365. So if you're using the online SharePoint, you're fine for that particular vulnerability. If you have the server product, you don't. So moving forward, key statistics. According to Accenture, 43% of cyber attacks happen to small businesses. Okay, so think about that, 43%. Of those, only 14% are prepared to face an attack. So if you do those numbers there, almost 2/3 of that 43% are not prepared and will lose money, will lose productivity, will lose a variety of things. What does it cost to resolve an incident? SMBs spend between $826, and I have no idea where that number came from. These are from reports, and $653,000. I know a lot of small businesses, if they got a $653,000 bill for a cyber incident, they'd be out of business. Is your business ready? Things you need to consider. And then the fact that they're increasing, and the reason they're increasing is cyber warfare, cyber theft is a massive, massive business, and it's run by cybercrime organizations. These are not individuals. These are large, complex environments stealing your money. A lot of data here. We'll provide the slides, but the one point I want to point out here is this first part, which is 82% of all breaches start with human intervention. That means somebody made a mistake. They gave out their information, and we do something called penetration testing, where we'll call companies and say, hey, I need your IT password. Or not even your IT password. We'll be calling up and we'll call the IT department and say to them, hey, this is so-and-so, we're doing a test, need to verify your password, and they provide it to you. Once you have that password, you are in trouble because it gives you access to other information. So we'll talk about what you can do about that. But again, the biggest piece is human breaches, human intervention. If they're all starting there, that is where you need to start when it comes to protecting yourself, and that's training. We'll get to that in a minute. Phishing. Again, people are busy. People are not paying close attention. So what ends up happening is hackers send emails that look like legitimate emails based on data they've gathered on you for years. So what does that mean? I am sure most people on this call have a LinkedIn profile. I'm sure most people on this call want people to realize who they are, and they want to expand that social network. So what do? They put where they went to college. They probably put what year they graduated college. They probably put other organizations, associations they have. So let's say, for example, you graduated from the University of Virginia in 2005. So I have that in my database that I've captured, and we're going to use that against you. So we have your email address. We know where you went to school, all of it available on LinkedIn, public information. So now we realize, hey, it's going to be October soon. We're going to do a Parents Weekend, and we're going to invite anyone who is a 20-year alumni to please join us for Parents Weekend. You're going to think it's legitimate. Why else would you get an email about Alumni Weekend or this and that? And so they're going to get you to fill out information. They're going to get you to that website. They're going to send you everything that looks legit, feels legit because it has your information. but isn't. Now, how can you tell? You can look at the email address it came from. You can mouse over the links that they want to click on. They're going to go to other sites that are not the University of Virginia. So what's the lesson learned? Well, one, be very careful what information you put out there. Two, realize what could be happening and what you need to check for. Three, take preventative actions to make sure that these types of emails aren't actually getting to you. And we'll talk about that in a minute. Last piece when it comes to human stuff is the internal threat. Okay, it doesn't mean that someone you've hired, someone else is there, but we talked about how human aspects. People are creatures of habit. They want things to be easy. So what do? They share their passwords. They share other information. In fact, in the United States, 23% admitted they've shared work passwords with a third party, not even people that they work with. Yeah, just log onto my computer. Go ahead and do this. Okay. According to Verizon research, almost half of last year's breaches stem from stolen credentials. Stolen doesn't mean somebody came in and took it from your data. It means that they got it because you either utilized the same password in 25,000 sites or you gave up that information. So now that I've done enough of that scaring stuff for you, what can you do? Well, as an organization, the first thing you want to do is have a cybersecurity plan. Now, that's great. You can go out there. If you don't have an idea of how to do it, you can look online. You can hire a company like us to help you with that. But the biggest piece is, what do you do once you create that plan? You have to test it. You have to make sure things are being utilized and done the way they are. And cybersecurity doesn't necessarily mean computers. It means people. Two, security awareness training. Every single client of ours must go through security awareness training, sometimes once a year, sometimes twice a year. The way our training works is you watch an online video. You then take a test. Great. You've now passed it. You've done it. If you don't pass the test the first time, you have another opportunity. Next, we send out fake emails once a week. If you click on them, we are notified. Your client company is notified. You do it twice, you get a remedial training. The more you do this, the less likely you're going to cause any issues there. So you have that. Implement zero trust. Make sure people don't have access to things that they don't need access to. It's that simple. Conduct risk assessments. Once you're doing these things, test it. Make sure that people aren't doing the things you're not supposed to. Now, we talked about MFA. Both Shalini and Sheldon both mentioned it. The key thing I want to tell you about MFA is you can utilize it with email or text, and you hear about that, you get, okay, this and that. That is not the best way to handle MFA. And the reason is those are both compromisable. You think about everything you sign up for. Your email password is probably the most important, because what do you do when you forgot your password? You go to the site, you click on forgot password, it sends you an email. Well, great, now you have email going to it. So if somebody accesses your email, they almost have access to all your online accounts. Now, if you're doing MFA in that same way, you log in and it says, well, we're going to send you a code to your email. Well, now the same person who has access to your email now got it through your MFA. Text is a little harder. They need to be able to hack your SIM and get that. Best thing to do is a token-based code. You can get free token stuff, Microsoft Authenticator, Google Authenticator, Authy, Duo. All of those are available. Those are the things you want to take a look at as opposed to an email or text MFA. Password management or passkeys. Won't get into the specifics too much, but basically use a product like LastPass or Password One, or other words, use passkeys, which is a randomly generated code specific to the device. So you're having 2FA built within one passkey. Use tools like EDR, XDR, MDR, online 24/7 monitoring of your system, looking for problems. Anti-spam, anti-phishing. Again, these are all tools you can utilize for your business so that these issues don't occur to begin with. Maintain a patching regimen. As I mentioned earlier, yesterday, Microsoft announced the vulnerability. They immediately said it's 0-day exploit. It's a major issue for people who have SharePoint server. If you do your patch as soon as it comes out, the likelihood of getting hacked is slimmer. Still going to happen, but it's slimmer. And then finally, you want to assume that insider threats exist, both from people who are trying to do stuff, so employees, it's unfortunate, as well as the fact that you have people making mistakes, which is where you run into a problem. So I know I ran through that really quickly. We don't want to spend a lot of that, but we have opportunity for question and answers. At this point, I am going to invite Shalini and Sheldon to jump back in along with Reese to handle the questions and answers that we have got coming up. And so Reese, I'll hand it off to you.
Thanks, Michael. We're going to give everyone a moment just to add in some questions, and then I will turn it over to the panelists to answer some questions. All right, I do have one question. What different sort of precautions should users take when using mobile banking apps versus on the browser?
I can take that one. So the mobile banking app syncs along with your online banking application. Having the most updated version is number one. It is very important for you to have the most updated version of your app on your phone. A big part of that is the security measures that are in place. That helps prevent, and like I mentioned, whatever are your credentials in your online banking is what transfers on the mobile. So just make sure that is secure, and that helps with the mobile app.
Thank you. Anyone else want to jump in on that one before we move on to the next question? All right, well, thank you. That seemed like a full answer. How is AI changing the fraud landscape right now, and how can organizations prepare as more and more AI tools are integrated into organizations' frameworks in 2025, 2026?
I mean, I can talk in a general sense, but I mean, artificial intelligence is just another tool. So what does that mean? It basically means that you are taking things that exist and giving a computer the ability to solve things quicker and faster. So what is AI going to allow you to do? Well, from the hacker's perspective, it allows them to think like a human, guess some of your passwords, do things that you couldn't do as quickly as you could before. From the protecting side, you have AI for that same benefit, which is, okay, now it's going to take what hackers are doing and utilize that against them to find ways to prevent. So, you know, I use this this discussion in other contexts, but it's sort of like the radar detector when that first came out. All right, people originally said, "Oh, okay, police are pulling us over. We're utilizing radar. How do we stop them?" So they came out with this radar detector, and it says, "Okay," it now picks up based on frequency that there's a police ahead, and so we can slow down so we don't get pulled over. So then the police said, well, this isn't good. So they came out with laser, and now they found a new way to just scan speed. And so then the radar detector said, well, we're going to do that. And then they kept changing. So AI is no different. The tools are out there, and so they're utilizing it for bad. We're utilizing it for good. They're going to create something. We're going to create something. It's just another tool. So, you know, you got to, when it comes down to it, you still have to be human. You still have to say, how do I verify? How do I utilize multi-factor authentication? How do I pick up the phone and not be my kids and make sure that, you know, people are over there doing what they want to do? So AI is just another tool from that perspective. But, you know, from the banking side, I'll happily hand that over.
And I agree 100% with Mike, especially for us. So AI is evolving right now. Beginning of the year, not so much as you're hearing about it now. So again, the bank is trying to adapt, create systems around it in order to ensure that your information is protected. But as Mike mentioned, it's the human aspect. It's the simplest measure, but the most effective measure is if you are suspicious, pick up the phone and call that person, and you will be able to tell. I know they talk about how AI is sophisticated in matching voices, but there are certain glitches you can look out for to know if that is an authentic person you're talking to. And again, that human aspect, if you are in conversation with your vendors, you know their voice, you kind of know their cadence. So that helps prevent fraud due to AI to a large extent.
Yeah, I'd agree with Charlie and Michael. In terms of bank fraud security, I think AI is the wave of the future. It hasn't, to Shalini's point, it hasn't reached us just yet, but I think it will be a powerful tool for us to identify fraudulent check items in particular. But the bad actors are ahead of us. And so they are utilizing AI right now. So we've sort of got to catch up a little bit in the banking industry. But I do see it being a great tool for us to use in bank security to identify more bad checks and other fraudulent items coming down the road.
Thank you. We do have another chat in the feed, which is it secure enough to propose to clients to make the payments by direct debit? I don't know if that the person meant direct deposit or direct debit, but I'll hand that off to you all.
It is definitely much more secure. If you follow the right parameters between verifying who you're sending the payment to, having dual control in place, maybe having positive pay, like you have a lot of speed bumps in order to ensure that that payment goes to the actual person. 100% lot safer than writing a check and putting it in snail mail.
Yeah, and I'll just echo what Shalini is saying and also add that I didn't mention it during my conversation, but we are actually recommending that our customers eliminate check writing altogether because it is that dangerous to your bottom line. And so electronic payment is a much safer avenue to take when you are making payments today. If you are going to continue to write checks, then obviously you want to follow some of the tools and solutions that Shalini had to offer, especially positive pay. But I would recommend that you really start looking at using electronic payment as a way to make payments in the future, or now for that matter.
All right, final question before we move on is how often should organizations review their fraud prevention strategies to keep them up to date?
Mike, did you want to take that? My response to that is as often as you can. Like I said, between the resources available, between security, keeping on top of your account balances, these are certain tools at your disposal to kind of keep on top of fraud. But banks do a great job with their security page in order to tell you what is the most prevalent fraud out there and how you can protect yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I would add that it's a living document. You know, I was talking about the testing document, you know, whether it's your marketing plan, your business plan, these are all living documents. And what that means is that everything you do is changing. So you should be reviewing it continuously. It's sort of, people ask us about how often should we back up stuff. You know, years ago, it was you did a backup once a week or it was once a day, and then you'd make incremental backups, etc. Today, backup is continuous. It means that as things change, we immediately back them up. This is the same thing. You should be looking at fraud, cyber, everything on an ongoing basis. It's not a, well, check it now, check it later. It's, okay, what are you doing to monitor it? It's really not a, so whether it's bank fraud, whether it's, cybersecurity, it's an ongoing process. You should have tools in place to say, are we doing these things and how often we should check them. But, you know, if you're looking at a specific document or a specific policy, I mean, at minimum once a month, but you know, that's like to look at the fine details. But this is an ongoing active thing you should be doing on a regular basis.
All right, thank you all so much. With that, just want to thank the audience again for attending. We know it's difficult to make time out of your day on a Monday, especially when you're getting back into the swing of things from the weekend. So we really do appreciate your attendance. We will be sending copies of the slide deck and the recording of the webinar to those who attended and registered. So we do encourage you to spread it throughout your networks if you think this could be useful to anyone. within your network. I just wanted to quickly, again, thank the speakers for coming. We have Sheldon Turner with John Marshall Bank, Shalini Kapoor with John Marshall Bank, and then Michael Drobnis with OptfinITy. We all three are willing and able to answer any questions that you may have. Their contact information is on the screen. And again, these slide decks will be sent out. So do encourage you to reach out to any of those three if you have additional questions or just want people to help you with your IT support or banking needs. All right, before we log off today, I'll hand it back over to the speakers to say their goodbyes.
Well, thank you again, everyone, for attending today. And again, as Reese mentioned, I am available anytime if you want to talk about ways that you can protect your assets, because again, fraud is so prevalent, and it's important that you are utilizing the tools that are available to you to protect your assets. So thanks for attending. I enjoyed every minute of it.
Thank you all. Again, I hope this presentation was valuable for you. If not, most of the slides, just please verify your payments and you should be good. Thank you.
Yeah, and again, thank you to John Marshall Bank. We enjoy working with them just for our banking needs, but in general, and for everyone attending today. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
All right, goodbye.